Hey guys, it's Effie aka Benuma. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I'm going to share something that I wrote the other day, just sort of to get my thoughts onto paper about this issue. Now, I grew up in Sydney, Australia, as most of you know. I've lived in Ghana for some time, and I've had a very particular experience that I don't know if everybody shares. But I want to share my questions because I have at least 25 years worth of memories of the church, of being a Christian, of being criticized for the churches I attended or for my faith. And I don't use the word religion because, religion is a lot of things. My faith is what I have. And so this is what I wrote because I'm actually really confused about what people expect the church to be in 2017, what people want that they're getting so mad instead of just trying to talk about things. So when churches are poor and only the elderly are in attendance, young people look down on them and they won't attend. They say that it's too boring, it's not interesting, it's not relevant. When the churches are rich or visibly financially prosperous and they are full, we accuse them for being cults. When they're happy, we accuse them for being sects. When they're too sad and somber, we say that they're too judgmental and have rules. I mean, what are we focusing on? What's important to us? So I'd like to quickly give a shout out to Alfie, to Beryl, to Andrew, to Parkwesi. Thank you so much for your comments. In a nutshell, you guys spoke about your ideal church being a place where you can be loved, a place where you can be inspired, a place that is a depository, somewhere where you can go and give everything you're worried about, your guilt, your shame, your sadness, and come out feeling renewed and hopeful. Quentin and others talked about a place that preaches the full counsel of God. I think that came from Beryl. A place where it teaches what's in the word in totality as opposed to just picking certain things that might be more palatable, like financial prosperity. Someone else said, oh, this is one of my favorites. Parkwesi said, my ideal church should have human beings in it. And I think that's a really good point. It's a deep point as well. And finally, someone said it should be a place where the preacher gives messages that people can connect with. Now, I think that ties in perfectly with what I've been reading in Acts chapter 4 and what I've been trying to understand about how the church began. And I think this is where our discussion begins, is we are so crazy about what the church is becoming and our criticism of it that we don't look back to where it began and to think about what God perhaps wanted it to look like 2000 and something years later. Now, this is not me endorsing any church. This is not me endorsing any type of style or whatever of churches. It's me just saying, how about we talk about that to help us to understand, and also for those of us who are Christians, to help us to have conversations that don't end in frustration and, oh, as for you don't understand, that kind of attitude. We need to be able to have conversations with our friends, family, people we encounter who do not believe in Jesus, and have them without getting defensive and emotional. We also need to learn how to criticize ourselves as Christians, again, without getting emotional and defensive. I'm totally guilty of this, and so I'm trying to learn how to change that. So, I still haven't got an answer. Some of you have been sharing your thoughts, but I think we need to get into this more. But I want to share something that Dami, who on Instagram is called Insert Appropriate Joke Here. Thank you so much for your encouragement. And what you said to me really hit the nail on the head. You were talking about a church that has good fruit. And what you said reminded me of Matthew chapter 7, verses 15 to 20. So I'm going to quickly read a few of those verses, but I want to start with Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. And this hit me hard today because I've been thinking, what is my problem? And I read this: do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you'll be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And I thought, what a message. I'm judging people who are upset and not having dialogue. They're judging people who are totally happy with the situation and the churches they're in. Everybody's judging each other. And so instead of judging, I need to learn how to be calm and think about the next verse. Why would you worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? So, let's have a look at verses 15 to 20. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep, but are really vicious wolves. You can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. So this is my question. Can we apply this same concept to the church? And the church in this day and age is an institution. It's many different institutions with different sets of rules and ways of doing things. But if we look at the places that we are criticizing the most, what do the people who go in and come out of those places look like? Are we seeing fruitfulness or not? Are we seeing places where people are walking out empowered, where people are making informed decisions, where people are succeeding in their careers and their lives? Or are we looking at places where people are coming out sadder than when they entered, places where people are not encouraged and where they're taught to have their hands open and keep them open instead of learning how to use what God has given them to move through the life that He's purposed them to live? And so these are questions I'm asking. I'd love your thoughts. The final question is, how does that then help us to think about the parable of the talents, which is also in Matthew in chapter 25. So I guess we're going to bring all this together, but I'm thinking, by their fruits you shall know them. So how about we look at what a church is doing, what they're producing, and let's not just look at what people are giving, but what the church is giving and doing that you might not have researched or learned or asked about. Let's also think about what it means for us as individual members. Do we come into church every week to get? How are we giving back? And if we're one of those people who don't go to church but happily criticize, what are you doing in your daily life to reflect what you expect to see? Let's keep talking.